Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. Oh boy, there it is. With one simple hit of a button, the record starts, and then, oh my gosh, it's like we're on a roller coaster and we're about to go. Right now, we're doing the click, click, click thing. It's so scary and exciting at the same time. I can't wait to introduce my guest to you today, a seasoned marketing leader and thought leader, fluent in building go-to-market strategies, rallying teams. Let's grow. Let's grow this thing. She is the co-founder and head of strategy and development at Wheels Up Collective. Amy Winter, welcome to the show.
Gee, thanks so much. What an introduction. I love it. You're like my psych man, you know?
That's right.
Thank you. Great to be here.
I'm like, I got the boom box on my shoulders.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, she's coming through. Let's go. Let's go. So Amy, I can't wait to pass you this thing. It's heavy, but I've been working out. Okay, here we go. Take Thor's hammer. I'm going to grab that. Whoa, okay. That was a backhanded. Do you play tennis? That was crazy. Okay. Take Thor's hammer, smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception, set the record straight once and for all.
Yeah, I would love to talk about the myth that leads can just magically appear in a funnel without a whole lot of extra work. And this is coming from, Wheels Up is a full stack marketing agency that helps early stage tech startups. So frequently we're working with entrepreneurs who created something totally new. It's a novel approach to a problem that maybe people don't even know that they can solve. And so they come to us and say, we want more leads. And it's so hard, I'm going to dare say impossible, to go from being a prospect who I don't even know that this problem is solvable to take my money in, one marketing program. It takes nurturing, it takes education. And, I think that a lot of the work that we do is expectation setting with clients to help them, realize how hard it is. And actually, we just had a conversation. I have two comments about this.
Yeah.
The first one was I sat on a sales call this morning for a plugin that goes on top of HubSpot that manages lead flow. And so many of our clients are like anxious to oversass this problem. They want to add on all sorts of subscriptions, and there's a lot of these tools are very valuable, but maybe not always the best way to spend time and money right now. And that's what I told this client. It's a great tool, and maybe when they have 100 BDRs, not 2, then it's something that we need. But right now, I think that there's actually some value in the BDR manager for this person to be in the data a little more and really, really understand it and really understand the lead flow before we automate it or before we find a tool that claims to be able to streamline that the funnel and make it faster and less leaky. So
totally. I was just experiencing this problem too. We're launching a bit of like a partner program to work. And some people would encourage us, launch this thing that's just broad and all the automation, and maybe you can have HubSpot triggers and you can track it over here and over there. Maybe you can automatically text message people, let them know how things are going. I was like, hold up. We don't even know if we're giving them what they want out of this thing.
Totally.
Yet alone, why? We don't know what to automate even. So what is that knee-jerk reaction to just want to automate, build, buy your way out of a problem?
I think it's the dream, right? It's like the dream that it's easy. It's easy enough to add this plug on. And I think what people don't account for necessarily is it takes time to build it, to set it up. It takes time to go through the contracting. It takes time to implement it. It takes time to train your sales, your people who are using it. It takes that is all lost time that you could be spending on something else. And you don't even know if it's going to work or not. So, and a lot of those tools are built on purpose, having been on the other side of that. They're built on purpose to be super sticky and hard to rip out once you put them in place. So, I think that I'm all for automation where it makes sense. My ask, is that you just be really conscientious about how you do it. Because, while a lot of these seem like fast, easy implementations, it's only a couple $100 a month. Like, it adds up. It adds up in opportunity costs. It adds up in things that you don't spend time on that maybe you could. And, I would go out on another ledge and say that, like, there's a lot of foundational marketing that needs to happen before those tools are even going to work anyway. Like, if you don't have a very good understanding of your personas and your buyer journey and your own messaging and positioning, like, I feel like, I get boring because I'm always saying the same things, but like, that's the hard work to do, right? And I think that people want to skirt that a little bit because it's the hard work.
Yeah. There's
It's
a bunch of
hard.
question marks around my brain when you think about that stuff, but it seems so much easier. I remember there was this one tool, this was like back in the day, early, pre the HubSpot worlds, where you could basically plug this app into your PPC program and it would just sort of like analyze and it would make recommendations. And the thing was the UI was great, right? It had like
It's slick. It's
colorful,
sexy, right?
yeah, it had arrows like, oh, this campaign is good. This one is
Yeah.
not good. Maybe you should examine this. But the thing is, it
Mhm.
could never tell you why. Like, it didn't know that you were completely missing the mark on the value prop or your keyword targeting was completely not your customer base. It was these
Yep.
foundational things. You didn't know your persona. And so we were just spending money. And this thing is as cute as it was, it like didn't replace the expertise of like, well, you actually need to, roll up your sleeves and figure out what makes these programs work.
Yeah. And I think like there's value in spending time in the data and like that being difficult and like understanding where the actual pain in getting the data is and where the pain in your process is. And I think that like it's really easy to have a knee-jerk reaction to hear a slick sales pitch and be like, "Oh, this is going to fix it." And maybe it will, maybe it won't. But like, I think it makes sense to kind of like have to wrestle with it a little bit and gnash your teeth through like trying to get the answers and understand what data you really need and understand where it's coming from before you rush to pay for an automation tool to make it easier. Then I think by all means, rush and pay for an automation tool to make it better. Once you
Right.
really understand what's working and what's not working, then absolutely automate the what out of it. But
Yeah. You got to figure it out before you can scale it. I was just
mhm,
thinking great marketers aren't ones that have like completely dominated and beat up their metrics and totally get it. No, they're just ones that wrestle, like they're actively wrestling with the data and then the marketers that struggle are the ones that don't engage. And yes, I love that you highlight, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. There isn't an easy solution, but
yeah.
there's that character building value to you as a marketer. Just be in there, just wrestling with that report to try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And I'm certainly not advocating for like, making things super difficult, but yeah, you're totally right. You have to understand it. You have to understand what problems you're trying to solve. So it's
Totally.
like a two-part. It's, you have to have your infrastructure built. You got to have your foundation in place. Actually, it's a three-parter. You gotta have your
Oh
foundation in
yeah.
place. You have to understand the problems that you're trying to solve. And then the third one, which was, this is a funny conversation that we just had with a client that it goes back to you can't go from unaware to ready to
Yes.
buy so quickly. Like, so we had a CEO that came to us, we were on his calls and he's like, I just need leads. I need leads. I need leads.
Does his name rhyme with Stewart?
There are a lot of them out there. And I mean, I absolutely love this CEO. I need
Right.
leads. I need leads. And, we were like, okay, well, we've got this nurture set up. We've got this ebook program set up. We've got this and he's like, I don't want to take demo calls. I just want to know if they are a good fit or not right away. And we were like, this is the analogy that we came up with. Like, you are asking somebody to go away on a romantic vacation with you, and we just want them to swipe right. We just want them to swipe right and like acknowledge that your pictures are cute and you look interesting enough to like have a chat with, And so it turned into this whole conversation around like aligning the lead stages with dating stages.
Oh yeah.
And I actually just wrote, I'm scooping myself, but I just wrote an intro to our newsletter. It went out, I think, yesterday for Valentine's Day. That was, like aligning. An MQL is really like somebody saw you across the bar and you're having a conversation. That's it. Like they aren't even giving you their phone number yet. So, and it was, it hit home with this CEO that like, oh, you're right. I'm coming at these people like very aggressively, expecting them to decide on the spot if they want to engage with us or not. And like they don't know anything about you. You don't know anything about them. So there really is this, the pre SQL part of the funnel, or pre SAL part of the funnel, or pre opportunity. Like you gotta work it. It takes a long time. And the flip side is, I think so many customers, so many of our clients are anxious to get, through that as quickly as possible, but you miss the opportunity to vet them too. Because how many, we work with SaaS companies, there's a huge, most companies aren't making money off of a client until at least year 2, right? Because of all the implementation and all the handholding that has to happen. And so you rush through the sales cycle, you get them to sign on the dotted line for something that is not a good fit, or they're not a good fit for you, and you spend time implementing them, which takes longer because it's not a good fit. There's so much time that is spent trying to keep this customer happy, and then they churn anyway. So
Right.
I think that like it's a two-way street. It's not just that you need to get leads faster, but you need to vet leads too, and that's part of that process too that I think is sometimes overlooked in the rush to just get me some leads.
Totally, right? Like the idea, sitting down at a first date and saying like, okay, what's your blood type? Hey, have you mapped your DNA out yet?
My mom's in the car. You want to meet her? I mean,
Yeah. Actually, I brought her in, right?
Yeah,
I just brought her in. By the way, here's the DocuSign, and what's your phone number? Yeah, I'm going to call you every day. I'm very needy. Oh, actually, I'm not even going to call you. My sales team's going to call you. Like, there's just all these crazy, cringy metaphors that happen.
Yeah.
People just think back to even your original myth that leads just sort of magically appear. Can you take me back to that and talk through how you approach that big picture where you have a situation where maybe you're solving a problem that people don't even realize maybe one is even a problem, or two, that there actually is they're not searching for your solution. How do you address that?
Yeah. So we, because we always think about marketing as research tool. It's a research tool. It's lead generation, it's demand generation, but it's also a research tool. And so, we like to think about those situations in particulars. How can marketing help inform your product roadmap? How can it help inform your messaging? How can it help inform your sales pitch? How can it help refine you and be like a really quick feedback loop? And so, but we also like to try and get lead generating programs in market as quickly as possible so we can at least start to identify some names. So, we do a lot of ads right out of the gates with little tiny budgets, but just something to start testing. And I know Google, they have lots of all the Meta and Google, like they have all sorts of AI tools where if you just throw money at them, they will optimize it. Of course, and if you have a lot of money and time, that's fine, but they want like 4 to 5 months of running campaigns with no cap before they're going to tell you, this is your ideal audience, this is your ideal spend level, this is your cost per lead. So we like to run like micro campaigns right away where, it's a very low, like ask for, we're not even asking for emails. We're asking for clicks. Like, what are people clicking on?
Gotcha.
What are ways that we can test that the messaging and the value props and that kind of stuff. So we like to start those like almost right away because, it shows right away that we're getting some traction. We're using it as testing. And then you can also follow those ads with retargeting where you're trying to capture an email address. So then we're starting to build that contactable database where we can start to actually like engage in a one-to-one way. So that's like the kind of air cover that we're trying to provide. And then it becomes a visibility issue. How do you start to build awareness? And that can be through thought leadership. That can, that's like the harder rock to roll, right? Because it takes some time to do that intentionally. I always think about with marketing, you're you are growing eyes, you're growing your audience, you're growing your number of eyeballs, and you can do it the slow, organic way that is less expensive, or you can do it the faster way by
Sure.
paying for paid sponsorships, for influencer, for co-marketing, whatever. And so we're always kind of trying to like tune that for what is worth paying for and what's not. Whose eyeballs can we kind of hijack a little bit? And so like event speaking engagements are fantastic for that. You
Sure.
know, awards are really good for that. Getting your customers, if you have any in an early stage, to talk on your behalf and to promote on your behalf is really good for that. The other thing is, you know, people often they don't think about their internal audience, their internal team
Sure.
as megaphones. You know, like all of your employees, all of your advisors, your board members, your customers, like they all have their own personal audiences, and we like to make it as easy as possible for them to be involved. And that, you know, could be sending out like pre-written stuff. And I know it's not ideal when, you know, 15 people are posting the same thing on LinkedIn, but it's better than nobody posting anything on LinkedIn. So,
Right.
you know, it's kind of like that you have to take little tiny bites of it. So if we can get people to start engaging with their own networks and make it so easy for them. So we have a woman on our team who she actually, for some of the like LinkedIn groups that our clients are in, she like writes the post for them. She puts it in the calendar invite for, you know, like 9 o'clock on the day that she wants it to post them. And she sends it to them as a calendar invite. All they have, you know, pops up on their calendar when they're working. They copy and paste it. They go to LinkedIn. She puts the link to put it into LinkedIn. I mean, it couldn't be any easier. And so, you know, it's like a super low barrier to entry way to get some of those other people to start talking on your behalf. You know, I think earned media is tricky these days, but I don't think you need a PR company anymore. I think you need to pick one or two places that are a good fit and build genuine relationships with the right people who are covering it. And we definitely over-index on small audiences that are very on target instead of like the big audiences that have a lot of waste and are harder to get anyway. So.
And those big audiences are just full of those vanity metrics that they make you feel good or bad in the moment, but literally have no tie-in to bottom line results at all.
Yeah. I remember like a million years ago, in the beginning of my career, I had a client that I was working at, I was in-house, and we decided we were going to put a newspaper ad in USA Today, because like that tells you how old how long ago this is. And it was a lot of money for us, but it was around Christmas, so we had this special, and we were like, the audience is so big that if like 3 people do it, it pays for it, you know? I don't even think 3 people did it, you know? It's, you know, I think those niche, especially the way media has fragmented in a good way, you know, it's easier to find those niche audiences, those niche influencers, those niche, you know, the people who are experts in a very teeny tiny part of the world, and build a real relationship with them. Don't send them a blanket pitch. Build a real relationship with them where you're offering something of value and it's not just about you.
Yeah. That's why I love podcasts.
Yeah.
From like just a micro, you know, the people who listen to this podcast, there's not 100,000 of them, but they're a smaller group, but they're really strong. Like we've been through a lot of podcasts. We've learned from a lot of pros together, you know? And we're all very similar. We have similar tech stacks and challenges. And yeah, right. It's that micro community versus some giant community. Nobody knows anybody.
Yep. Yeah. We had one CEO who he actually was an ER doctor and also developer, and, you know, had built software that solved ER problems. And, you know, we joked that he was a nano influencer on TikTok. You know, he didn't have that many people following him, but like you know, it was the right audience, and it doesn't matter if they're the right 5 people who are following you, like it's worth it. It's worth the time.
Yeah. Right. Like you don't want 1,000 people, you want 10 or 100 of your ideal customers to. Or really like the 3 people who, you know, I didn't know there were ads on the USA Today. I actually didn't know there were ads on there.
A long time ago, a very, very long time ago. Yeah. And, you know, like to like bring it back to the original, you know, you can't do that. You can't build those genuine relationships. You can't find those very specific things if you don't know who you are and what you're
Yeah.
trying to do. So it goes back to like really understanding your messaging and your positioning and the solutions and the problems that you're actually solving.
Right.
Because I think a lot of times people think they're solving one thing and their happy customers think they're solving something else and they don't even realize it.
And how often do we actually talk to our customers too? That I bump into that all the time where we try to distill down from survey monkey, one-dimensional data,
Yeah.
and it's like, just go have a conversation. I remember having just like I bought a customer like a coffee, and it was like a 10-minute convo at a Starbucks out of Atlanta, actually, and
Hmm.
I learned more in that 10 minutes about their struggles with what they were trying to do with their clients than, anything would have told me. Like,
Yeah.
I totally understood what their challenge was after that little short conversation. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And most companies, like, they have CSMs or they have salespeople who are doing that. So
Sure.
if you're a marketer, get in on it. Like
Yeah.
we have one client that uses Gong, which, talk about being outsourced. Like, I do actually love Gong. They, and we have it integrated with a Slack channel where anytime somebody mentions certain keywords in sales calls, it pulls the snippet. And so, like, I can scroll through this Gong channel and see anytime there's a competitor mentioned or anytime there's, a pain point mentioned, or and just read the clip. That I can listen to the clip or I can read the
Mm.
transcript. And, like, I think your sales, it makes me so sad when sales and marketing and CS are in like these three separate, silos, kind of
Oh
running
my
in
god.
different directions. And, they're your boots on the ground. And so the closer you can get to them, I think you will talk to customers, you will hear from customers, you will be able to um, be closer to that voice of the customer.
100%. Where do you go for your inspiration? Clearly, you're a thought leader for many others. Where do you like to consume information that you eventually share? Do you any podcasts, any books that you have been reading lately?
Yeah, I have to tell you, and everybody gives me a hard time when I say this, I hate to read. Like, I read all day. I don't like reading
Yeah.
for leisure. Like, it just makes, like, I can't do it. I used to, but not anymore. So I love podcasts. I'm a voracious podcast listener. My favorite podcast right now is, and it's been on the top of the list for a while, is Hard Fork. It's out of the New York Times. Do you know about this
You said
podcast?
hard fork?
Hard Fork. Yeah, it's a technology podcast. It's all about AI tech.
Cool.
And they talk about like current events, but also like the businesses behind it. And it is exactly in my wheelhouse for what I need to know what's going on with our client base. It is, but the two guys on it are just, I need to be friends with them. And so if
Seriously,
you
right?
if you know Kevin and Casey from Hard Fork, give them my number. They are
Seriously.
hysterical. And I don't usually like the podcasts where there's like chit chat.
Yeah.
They don't do much chit chatting, but when they do, it is so funny. So um, that's my favorite podcast. I do a lot of doom scrolling in LinkedIn. I think if you are following the right people, I think most of the people on, most of the comments in LinkedIn are, kind of like self.
All you do is say self, and I was completely in the loop on exactly what you're talking. Yeah.
So, it's a little grandiose, but like there's, if you follow the right people on LinkedIn and there are some, good groups on LinkedIn, like I think there's really good stuff in there. Because it's the boots on the ground. If you find the right authentic people to follow, it's the boots on the ground, like quick intel. So I do a lot of doom scrolling in LinkedIn as well.
Okay, well, definitely reshare when you find good stuff because I am following you, and we'll link to you on your LinkedIn profile, in the
Thanks.
show
Yeah.
notes. But yeah, so many of those people, doing the whole. Do you know there's even apps now where you, you can have AI comment on people's content and you didn't even do
Yes.
anything?
Yes.
Great post, Amy. I loved what you had to say about that. Keep going.
I'm so conflicted about AI.
Yeah.
Like I'm so inspired by the transformative potential that it can like cure cancer but I think that humanity is too dumb to like let that happen. Like I it, I'm kind of terrified that AI is going to get distilled down to the lowest common denominator and used for um the least impactful things, which is really sad to me. So I hope that AI is used for good and for, solving actual problems, not fake commenting on LinkedIn.
Seriously. And we can spot that stuff anyway. So any of you, nobody listening to this show does that,
Would
but
do
I've
that.
definitely,
Never.
we've all seen it. I will say it has helped with seventh grade math homework, where it's like, honestly, I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, ChatGPT is amazing. Like,
Yeah.
it's absolutely amazing. It has changed my day to day remarkable. I mean, it's amazing. So I'm so inspired by the transformation. And we have a lot of clients who have a lot of AI. So please
Yeah.
don't let them hear me say that. But
Well, no, no, but
it was,
yeah,
there's a lot of, you worry about that AI is going to get cut off at the knees because of like when it gets used for bad stuff,
sure.
that it's going to get stifled by the, Congress, or I don't know, there's going to be restrictions put around it, and then it's not going to get to tackle the things that are really important and where it can make a difference. So one of the things that like I learned about on Hard Fork was this PDOOM. Do you know about this? The
No,
PDOOM.
tell
What's
me.
your PDOOM? Okay, so it's the probability of doom. What is your probability that you think AI is going to cause like the demise of humanity? And so they always ask people that on their interviews, like, what's your PDOOM? And I guess it's a thing, Google it. So mine vacillates wildly between like 3% and like 75%.
Interesting. Yeah, what are you at this very moment, you think?
Um, Single digits,
Yeah.
single digits.
I think we're doing a pretty good job ourselves of getting there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see with the, you talk about like the election, like that's going to bring out the worst of AI, right? So like that's what I mean when I just, it's sad when AI is such amazing technology and it's used for junk.
Seriously, the amount of text messages I've gotten from all the candidates that I do not even, in fact, no one. I don't want anyone to text me. Like,
Anyone.
please just leave me alone. It's crazy.
What's your PDOOM?
I might go 50-50, that way
Really? Yeah.
I'm always right, basically at that point.
Again, like I don't, not to date myself, but like I grew up on the Terminator movies. Like we've seen what will happen. So,
Sarah Connor was afraid for her life,
right?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I think it's not necessarily even like it takes over, but like either it makes us dumb or we
Yeah.
use it ourselves for bad reasons or something.
Yeah.
But until then, helping me out in the math homework, and I know,
Is great.
the Spanish homework was great too.
It's interesting to see, like I've read a bunch, I've been reading a bunch. We do a lot of SEO for clients, and we're not an SEO shop for sure, but
Amen. Neither am I.
yeah, but like, you got to think about it. It's like part of your
Sure.
foundation. So, there's so many pages that, AI is just spinning up, and like, it's really going to be interesting to see how that changes AI strategy or SEO strategy going forward. If you can win doing it the right way and still providing value for visitors, or if, the AI bots are going to take over the internet and just flood it with, trash basically.
You can tell it like, please write me an essay for this class. I mean, this would have been terrible for me in college. Terrible. I would have absolutely used it. But like, write me an essay, but write it in a way that gets me like an A minus, maybe a B plus,
Yeah,
and make
I
it
know.
not detectable by any AI detection methodologies, So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, write me an SEO strategy and then create all this content, but don't make it something that Google can detect. I don't want to get nerfed.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like they already have like statistics around like how many pages, what percentage of the pages on the internet are AI written. They don't, they're not at all. And a lot of them have affiliate links on them. So, it's becoming like a revenue driver for a lot of media companies
Yeah.
to just spin up all these, affiliate link stuffed AI pages. And I don't know, be interesting to see how it goes. I think we're definitely on the precipice, right? Like,
Yeah.
I cut my teeth. Like, I came out of college, at the height of the .com bubble. And, I think back to how different life was when I was in college versus like my, 4 years of college versus the next 4 years. And I think we're really, standing at one of those same like precipices of how technology is really going to change.
Yeah.
It's super interesting.
Especially with that coding and taking over a lot of the white collar jobs more than the blue. So you're like, what? Yeah, goodbye graphic designers, draw me a purple bunny rabbit logo version of this. Thanks.
I
Done.
know. Actually, my co-founder just had a baby a couple months ago,
Oh,
and
cool.
she had her husband like went on Dolly and said, give me a picture of a baby in a 49ers for the Super Bowl, jersey with red hair and blue eyes because their baby has red hair and blue eyes. And the two pictures next to each other was kind of terrifying. I'm like, well, maybe babies all look the same. I don't know.
I don't know, but rip 49ers. That was a travesty. Uh, so really, yeah, I just got me curious now. There's just so much that you know. Who are you? Who are you? Take me back in time, little Amy days. Did you know that you're going to be an absolute marketing boss, running companies, teaching people the way, smashing myths? Take me back in time. What was it like?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I actually, I always thought I wanted to be a graphic designer.
Okay.
I was really into art, but I'm terrible at art.
What are those?
Yeah. And I remember I had, I was in like middle school, high school, and I had an art teacher who told me about graphic design, Mr. Heiser.
Shout
I
out.
still think about Mr. Heiser, my art teacher in high school. And he kind of, there's this thing where you can do it on a computer, blah, blah, blah. So, I went to college thinking that I was going to be a graphic designer and, I ended up at an ad agency right out
Okay.
of college in New York. And that was an amazing way to learn the ropes. And I
Right.
think all the time about, first of all, like how do you chart your own territory? How do you make good decisions when you're 22 about, your future? Because, you know, uh, I think there is a definite split between like going the big route versus going the small route. And they have like pros and cons. Like working at the fifth largest ad agency in the world at the time, like I learned how to do it right. Like I learned
Right.
process, I learned structure, I learned professionalism. And then I ended up moving from there to a really small company. When I got there, it was $1 million. I was there in revenue. I worked there for 10 years. And when I left, it was like a $20 million company. And so it was
Wow.
like slow, steady growth.
Yeah.
But I did everything there. I got to do a little bit of everything. We broke into so many new markets.
Sick.
I did everything from web design to sales. I kind of did a little bit of everything. And so but I think if you go that small route, it's hard to break into a bigger company if
Mm.
that's ultimately where you want to go. So, I ended up going the small route, big route and then small route. And then that kind of like led me to startups, which actually was a perfect fit for me very serendipitously because I don't have a very long attention span. So,
Yeah.
I need to move pretty quickly on things. And so I spent 13 years in Seattle in the startup world. And, that's the pace for me. That's kind of where I want to be. But I grew up on a farm. My dad was a dairy farmer. And
No way.
my family, the biggest compliment you can get in the Winter family is like, she works hard. Not like she's smart or she's funny or she's kind or, she works hard. So, I just kind of had that ingrained,
Wow.
which maybe is why the startup thing works for me because it's a slog. It's
It
just you put
is.
your head down and you just slog through it. But I don't know. I don't. And then in COVID, like my co-founder and I both were looking for jobs at the same time, and COVID kind of had everything shut down, and everybody else decided to start making bread, and we're like, hey, let's start an agency. So
Right. Yeah, literally, they're like, "Hey, yeah, share your sourdough starter with me," and you're
yeah,
like, "I'm launching a company."
I'm launching a company. Yeah, I'm launching a company. Well, so many people, we forget like there was that rush to digital then. So many
Oh,
companies
yeah.
weren't ready for that. And so
Oh, yeah.
the two of us were getting hit up by people who we knew, like, can you help with this? Can you help with that? And we're like, we should start an agency. And so, 4 years later, we're chugging along. And I love the entrepreneurial spirit of it. I love having people who I can like cherry pick to work with. I love
Yeah.
having young people that I'm so close to that I can mentor, and I love being able to pick the clients that we work with. Um, so yeah, it's pretty great.
I do love that same kind of, like, startup nimble feel, but you're right. The grind is real, and you kind of almost like kids, you kind of forget, you know? So I had the marketing agency, now I'm doing this podcast agency, and I had forgotten just how much of a grind there is in the beginning. We're like, "Oh, yeah, you're definitely having to work it at the beginning," you know?
Yeah.
But then you're like, "Yeah, but I love it." What else would I be doing? Sleeping in, you know?
And like I am a very conservative with like money. Like I'm not a gambler,
Yeah,
but those fake stock options, that's enough to like keep me going. Like, and sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't, but that's enough to kind of keep, in the past, it has been enough to like keep me hooked. That
totally.
like, oh, if I just work a little harder, these are, I'm gonna hit the lottery. And I think startup junkies, like they definitely exploit, you can exploit that personality a little bit and get them into the company and get them cooking a little bit, but it's fun.
Yeah. And it's an adventure, and certain
Yeah.
people are fit for it. There's, like, more risk, but
You're around the same kind of crazy. Yeah.
yeah, crazy. Well, I have a bit of a hypothetical question for you next,
Okay.
if you're ready. Okay. You see, I may or may not have a time machine up here in New Hampshire. So, you come visit, do an event in Boston, visit a client, come hang out, get some beer, some lobster, and use the time machine, right? It's in the
Yep.
backyard, covered in a tarp. So it's a particular kind of time machine, and you get to go back in time and meet yourself a couple days after that graduation. You're a graphic designer, you're about to go in the world. What would you say to that, Amy? What would you say to yourself back then? Any advice?
Yeah. I have thought about this a lot. Learn the tech. I would have learned the tech better. I would have, and that doesn't mean I want to be like a software engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but I do find that that is where I have difficulty as a marketer, that like I can talk the talk with a director of product, but I have a hard time talking the talk with the CTO, and the engineers, and like really understanding the complexity of what we're doing. And as a marketing leader, I think that that has value. Certainly if you're a product marketer, you need to be able to do that. But, you know, in a CMO position too, I think that that has a lot of value. And so I would say, because I did want to be a marketing leader, I didn't want to be a leader at something when I was a kid,
Yeah,
coming out. Like really understanding the tech, I think would have set me up for an easier career.
yeah,
I try really hard and I do a lot of reading and listen to the podcasts and, but I'm not an engineer, and it would be helpful to know a little bit about engineering, a little more than I know now.
100%. 100%. You know what's crazy is even if you do learn that, you have to keep learning it because then
Yeah.
you're like dated like, "Oh, I know how to do
Yeah,
basic
totally.
programming," which apparently they don't even do anymore,
I
you
guess I
know?
could just use ChatGPT to tell me what it is. Like, why is this interesting?
Right,
Like,
right.
because you need to be able to take that and translate it into something that somebody who doesn't care about the technology, like why it's important or why it's better or why
Yeah,
it's safer or more secure or whatever. So
totally. And most important question, is that tree behind you real?
you'll never know. I'll never
And
tell.
if it is real, how do you keep it green? Because we just lost a fern in the
It's
office
not
today.
real.
It's not real?
It's not
Note
real.
to
No.
self, send me a
I
link
just
to where you buy your fake trees, and I am all about it.
Well, actually, I just moved into this house a month ago. I spent a year building a house, which was
Wow.
never on my bucket list. It
Sure.
just sort of worked out. And so my office is pretty scarce. So this was like an attempt when I moved into the office on January 2nd after the holiday to like not look like I was in a closet, and also
Right.
I needed some like sound absorbing. So we pulled the
100%.
tree out of storage and put it there.
It works. It works. I like it.
Thanks. Next time I'll come, maybe there'll be some stuff on the wall. Look a
Yeah,
little
some
more
picture
interesting.
frames and yeah,
Yeah.
it'll still look like a fake background, but either way. Um, crazy. So where do people go to contact you? Get information, Wheels Up, contact you personally? Where do you want them to go?
We are on all the normal channels, wheelsupcollective.com. We're on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I try and hit that every day.
Yeah.
So love to connect with people that way. And like my absolute favorite thing in the world to do, like I try and have at least one of these on my calendar every week, is I love to talk to like early stage CEOs and just like, let's just talk. Let's just talk
Mm,
about like what keeps you up at night. Like, what are you grappling with? I love to have those conversations, and, I'd like to think that it's giving some expertise maybe, or giving, a separate set of eyes, fresh set of eyes. So, certainly invite anybody who, has growth questions or growth
mm,
hurdles that they're facing,
yep.
like put time on my calendar. There's a link on the website. Like, I would love to have conversations with CEO, leaders, marketing leaders, CEO leaders who are, are just trying to figure it out. So
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
I think it's fun.
Hey, this is so cool. Thank you for coming on here.
Thank
I feel like we just
you.
entered our own time warp because like an hour has just flown by. Thank you just for like opening up your brain and just pouring it out so I can learn from you.
Well, thank you for the invite. It was super fun.
And for those listening, if you learned something, and I freaking know you did because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, share this with someone else, one person, 9,000 people, whatever the number. But put what your take is, right? What was your takeaway? Tag us, tag Amy, tag myself. We'll have a little LinkedIn party talking about some of the takeaways here. And yeah, man, so many things. I have to process this myself. Amy, thank you again. This is rad.
Thanks so much. We will love to come back. We would love to come back. So
hell yeah.
Thank you.
Hell yeah. This has been another crazy cool episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.